And we're live. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this special edition of 3 Minutes to Midnight. My name is Lori Alexander. I'm joined by my co-hosts tonight. We have, of course, Robbie D, and then we have our special co-host, Marty. And we are joined tonight by an exclusive interview that we're going to be doing with Mr. David Main. And I don't know if you guys have been watching the news, but we had an incident last night, another incident in London, in a district of northern London called Finsbury Park. This is the official statement as to what happened. One person has died, 11 were injured in early morning hours on Monday after a van was driven into a crowd of Muslim worshippers in Finsbury Park, north of London. Police said the man who died already had been treated for an unrelated ailment, and they were still investigating whether or not his death was related to the attack. 47-year-old man was arrested by police on suspicion of attempted murder and of the terror offense. He was later named by family and neighbors as Darren Osborne, a man who had previously expressed hatred of Muslims. Now, I'm going to warn you guys, this is the official statement, but we're going to show another side of this man in just a little while. And he was not known to the security services the government announced. So this comes off the heels of the May 2017 Manchester attack at the Ariana Grande concert, where many victims supposedly had been killed, 19 at least. And last week's London Grenfell Tower fire, where 79 supposedly were presumed dead. So this kind of came as, it's coming on the heels of this, and we wanted to get to the bottom of it, and lo and behold, Robbie messaged me earlier today and said that he knows Mr. Osborne, that they were residents in the same town. They hung out together in the rave scene. And then he contacted David Main, who's going to be joining us here, who also was friends with the suspect, David Osborne. So I'm going to turn it over to Robbie, and he's going to kind of fill in the blanks as to how they know this gentleman. And he's going to introduce our guest tonight, Mr. David Main. Robbie, go ahead and take it over.
Yeah, well, this is a bit of a strange scenario because, I mean, we've spent the last, how long, 2 or 3 years talking about the New World Order, talking about false flags, talking about, the narrative. And, last night, same situation again. We had an attack in Finsbury Park. Didn't really actually pay it too much attention because I'm kind of like false flagged out. We've just had the Grenfell Tower incident, and, they're saying that the number 17, there's 79. Yeah, I'm saying there's going to be at least 500 families, people that are dead. Yeah, there are people on the ground that are saying that there's a lot of people in that tower are dead. The government are covering it up. The media are covering it up. Yeah. So I was kind of like, the whole week's been kind of, do you know what? I've just had enough of this, right? It's, so last night happened, the situation came on the news or whatever, kind of looked at it for a little bit. I thought, no, I'm not really going to do anything about it. So anyway, today comes by. Yeah, everyone's talking about the attack. Next thing I know, right, I hit Dave Main up, or Dave Main, my good friend from Western Supermare, who I've known for many couple of decades. Yeah, part of the rave scene. He's a producer in an outfit called Orca. Many people in the rave scene will know who he is. A lot of dealings with Fantasia. I'm a good friend of his, right? Hits me up. He goes, "Oh, Darren Osborne's the Finsbury Park terrorists. What the hell?" And I'm like, "What are you on about? What, Darren Osborne? No, you've got to be having a laugh, mate." So I hit him up, and I'm like, "Are you being serious?" And he's like, "Yeah." And as he's telling me this, yeah, I've got Sky News on and I'm watching the video. And lo and behold, right, they've got Darren Osborne, right? They got him up next to the van and the police are putting him on the van, right? Now, I knew Darren Osborne what? I hadn't seen him in about 16 years, right? When I used to live in Weston-super-Mare, right? It might seem a long time ago, but in reality, it's not really that long at all, right? I knew him, like Dave knew him, right? So I've basically said tonight, Dave, can you come on and explain the situation? Because what they're saying in the media, right, doesn't tally up with who he is, right? I find it most strange, and I also find it outrageous. I also find it a bit odd that with all the reporting that we've done with all these false flags and all these terror events, that somebody that we know has happened to, you know, apparently carry out this event. Right, I'm still trying to get over it. So anyway, I'd like to introduce everybody on the Underground Resistance Network to my good friend Dave Main.
Hi, Robbie. Thanks very much. Yeah, and I actually, you sent me an invitation to your night in Bristol. It's going to be on the 7th, and I just said to you, what do you think about the thing? But what actually happened to me today is I got on Facebook. I don't really watch the news. I got on Facebook and you know, as the situation's unfolding with, you know, just since Brexit and everything, the very nature of being British these days is getting really complicated. And people are culling a lot of their friends on Facebook because a lot of people are making a hell of a lot of serious racist comments, etc., etc. And it's almost been allowed with what, you know, the way the media supported it and the actions of the country through Brexit, I suppose. So anyway, there was this guy and he put on Facebook, I think it's about time someone gave these bastards back what they've been giving us or something. And I thought, whoa, that's really heavy. That's deeply racist. And then I said to him, I said, mate, I thought you were a bit sharp on that. And I said to him, you know, don't you realise that we're being this is mind control. We're being programmed. It's all part of it. This is the same thing as Hitler did to take away your rights bit by bit, introduce martial law, and basically, eventually, cull you off through Agenda 21. And he was like, oh, sorry, mate. And the next thing I know, someone's put a photo up. And went, yeah, but guess who did it? And I was absolutely stunned because I just couldn't believe it. It was like all of a sudden reality disappeared. And I'm like, what? Darren Osborne from Western is the terrorist. And I was stunned. And I was like, wow. You know, and yeah, it's pretty mad. So I had a look at it, and then all of a sudden I put it on Facebook. Immediately, I just put it on my timeline. I just put, you know, to everyone else in Western, really, you know, look who this terrorist is, not realising that he hadn't yet been named. So all of a sudden, from just putting a thing on, and a couple of people going, that is Darren, and a couple of others going, that's definitely him. I got swarmed with bloody, you know, the main fake news people. The Mail, the Sun, the Daily Express, everyone, like literally just absolutely swarmed me. And I was like, whoa. Yeah.
The Mockingbird mainstream media.
Yeah, exactly. And then the next thing you know, it's like, whoa. And then like, you know, I was talking to other people who said, oh, they just released his name now. And all these reporters, I was like, oh, I don't really, you know, I was worried about his family and other things. What about them? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's gone mainstream now. So that was all just very hectic. But then, as you said then after, Robbie, I know there's been a lot of false flags and everything else, but I mean, there are a few things that don't add up. But to be honest, as I know him and as you do, I mean, he was always a bit of an unsavoury character, really. He's always been he's always been violent. He's been a bit of a criminal, you know. And a lot of people say, for example, in Western, there was lots of people that were like, oh, Darren Osborne, because he would get drunk, he'd attack people for almost no reason at all. And you know, and he was a bit notorious around town for that sort of behaviour. You know, if you looked at him the wrong way, he might just come along and glass you, something like that. He was pretty. You know, he used to be a bit of a football hooligan as well. And as you know, as I know him, you know, he was on the rave scene and stuff as well.
Yeah.
But like you said, one of the things that don't add up is obviously his extreme racism. towards Muslims. But the thing, he's got a nephew. He's always been, like you said with you, Robbie. You've always said he's never been racist towards you.
Never. He's never been racist towards me at all. In fact, he was quite, he was very friendly to me, right? And it wasn't a case of the fact that he knew our associates, like Andy or whatever, right? He was always pleasant He was always pleasant. He never gave me any inkling that he had any racist tendencies in him whatsoever.
Well, that's it, like you said. And I was talking to another friend earlier on today, Ian, and that is true. That is true. The thing is, he was always against it because his nephew, he's got a half-caste nephew. So basically, he used to be quite, he'd be quite, if you started using inappropriate words that he thought were racist, he would stand in there and he would kick off about it. But of course, to be fair, that is obviously, connected with that. As far as the general attitude of that goes, though, I don't doubt that he's done that. I don't doubt that he's done that. His past football hooligan thing and just the general thing. I think his nature is such that he was always like, he's always had that notoriety of being a badass and this, that, and the other. And I think he was just thinking. I personally think he was going for some sort of glory. I think he thought this at first on Father's Day, and I think he's done it. I know that he's personally, after many years of being with her and having 4 kids, so he's probably not quite right in the head anyway. And he's definitely done it, and I'm sure of that because I could, the looks on his face, the 2 looks on his face. I'm thinking, that's I couldn't believe it, but it's like, he's gone and done that. I know what you've said. About, and I totally, I follow you, and as you know, I myself have got, I see quite clearly a lot of false flags stepping over it, and I think there's a mixture of the two, Robbie, because
we know that you have your classic false flag, right?
Absolutely.
And then you have your situation where events happen and they never let a crisis go to waste, right? Now,
absolutely, that's it. They've monopolised on this. There's no doubt about it. This incident is a big incident. It's the first time. It's the first backlash that, although he wasn't packing a bomb in the van, he might. It's the same style, and it's the first backlash. Cause a whole bunch of shit, a whole bunch of hatred, and just raise it. And of course, the media, they're literally, that story is going to be banging out. They're going to be plugging it out, and of course, people like the EDL have made comments and everything else. And then you're looking over Facebook, and all of a sudden, people from Western. I mean, there's a coloured fella from Western, Eric George, right? And he's put on there, Darren Osborne from Western isn't a terrorist. He's just done what everyone else was thinking. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
exactly. Well, and so comments like this are coming out, and of course that is the classic divide and conquer, as you know. We are, and the Hungarian dialects. We're basically at the moment. We're just literally the whole thing now is just blown up, and all of a sudden, all of those people, because he's an ordinary man, so to speak, who's gone and done. I've heard some rumor that his children was affected in the Manchester bombing. I don't know whether that's true. I don't know where that comes from. I also heard someone say the people in the van, but I've been studying it today, and I can't see that there were. There were 7 people in the ambulance, but I think that was due to I don't know where that's come from. But I'm absolutely horrified and mortified by it. The fact he's from Western, the fact that I knew him, the fact that you knew him, the fact that both of us knew him, and we're both on the same sort of, you've been blocked off Facebook a couple of times now. I've had a few warnings for telling truths, and all of a sudden, there it is. I just couldn't believe it. It's just like, wow, this is not real. But unfortunately, it is.
Yeah, it's like our chickens are coming home to roost in the most abstract way.
Exactly.
As you said, right? With the general Western Supermare. I mean, people who are not aware of Western Supermare, it's a little town about 14 miles away from Bristol, or round about
about 20 miles.
It's about 20 miles away from Bristol. Yeah, it's got a funny little attitude with it, right? It's got an odd little vibe to it. The town. It's a seaside town. I mean, you know, I used to have some great fun there, but there was there's a little stigma in there somehow.
There's a bit of a drug. There's a big drug stigma because again, it's a bit like it's got a lot of rehab centres and stuff like that. So
well, it's got the second. It's got the second biggest population of rehabs in Europe, second to Brighton. Brighton being the first.
Exactly. And apparently, Russell Brand, when he came, he obviously renowned ex junkie, whatever. He referred to Weston as a bit of some sort of a
but,
heavy comment. But yeah, it's a bit. Weston's always been a bit weird, like you say.
Yeah. But you know, still, you know, we had a few laughs there and whatnot. But at the same time, as you can see, there's probably a big divide there. And as I
don't think there's that big a divide, Robbie. I think most people in Weston are just like, what an absolute. Yeah, you know, most people are saying, as I am as well, what an absolute idiot. And more than that, you know, just evil. You know, he's obviously misguided. He's obviously listened to the media. He, in his own mind, is probably thinking he's a little hero now. He's probably thinking, and to a certain degree, to some of these really right-wing organisations that have come about, you know, to a certain degree, there are certain people out there that probably will. You know, like you said, there's more at the moment with all of these acts. There's more bloody Muslims in prison than anyone else. So, you know, he's put himself in a right situation, hasn't he?
Well, he's not done himself any favours.
I think obviously his mentality of thinking, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm going to be the first to take action. All this kind of stuff. Whatever he thought, he obviously hadn't thought that through at all because you know. No. At the moment, the majority of people that that are getting, a lot of them, some of them being detained without charge and all that other stuff. You know, there's a lot of people that are going to be thrown against in prison, but quite rightly so. But
yeah, I mean, we've got all our panel here, and the majority of our panel are from the United States. And now, for the last 2-3 years, we've been warning about martial law coming to the United States. Now, we actually, in the last
coming to us, overnight
in the last
3 weeks,
2-3 months, right? I came to the very conclusion that the UK may be getting martial law first, right? It's on the cards, it's there, it's happening,
We've got loads and loads. Normally for Britain, it's different for America, but we don't normally see very many armed police, except for when they do these Amber Alerts and different alerts. And at the moment, we've got armed police all over the place. There's loads of them in Western now. Look, I couldn't work it out. Obviously, I realise now. But when I was first driving around, I saw loads of armed police, and I even said to my daughter, I said, "What are all these armed police doing everywhere?" Now I fully understand, and everyone else has said, "Oh yeah," and there are literally loads of them around. And again, that's I suppose, and again, so what we've got is I think like things like Manchester. There's been some very suspect ones. I think this one is just a genuine one. I think he's read the papers, he's done all that, and he's got that sort of character where he just, what's the word? He's gone for a glory story. That's what he's done. He's basically half the people that he hangs out of, which I might point out I'm absolutely opposed to, but he's probably got a few mates that are like, oh, yeah. And he's literally gone thinking, because he quoted, didn't he? He said, "I've done my bit now," or something.
Yeah, that's the thing that I have a problem with, right? Now, it's been reported that he said that, right? And, my problem is, unless I heard him say it on camera, right, with the track record of the mainstream media the way it is, they could tell him that he said that. Well, look, look, Santa Claus just came down from.
Of course they could say anything.
Absolutely, and the thing is, the way that the mainstream media works is that, and I always told you this, you could go to bed tonight, and tomorrow you could wake up a terrorist. Right, for no fault of your own, because we know that the media is controlled, and they can tell you any story about any citizen of the United Kingdom or the USA or France or Belgium or any other country. It doesn't matter who you are, right? If they decide, if certain interests decide that they want to pinpoint you as a targeted individual, right? They would have no problem getting up at 6 o'clock tomorrow on the 6 o'clock morning news and saying that you did this, did X, Y, and Z, and said X amount of whatever.
Absolutely. You know that's the truth. They can always do that. But on this occasion, I must say, I saw it develop, because literally I didn't realise the timing or anything else. So I didn't realise when I put my comment with the picture of the thing, I didn't realise that they hadn't named him anything else. And I could, first hand, I experienced all of these people, all of these reporters all of a sudden were like, can we talk to you? Can we talk to you? Blah, blah, blah. And then they were asking questions, and you could see how the story formulated, and none of them did know anything, to be honest with you, Robbie. From what I could see, none of these reporters, and they were the mainstream, Sun, Mail, Express, everything, they were literally scraping around, racing like mad, like ferrets, trying desperately to get all the details of the story. So they did actually know nothing. And again, I don't think that with most of the people in Western that know him, I don't think anyone's actually, apart from the racist bit, like you said, because he's been opposed to racism. But again, to be fair, if you're going to put, because it's a different, as I said, his nephew is half caste, so that's his family defence sort of thing from there. But I wouldn't say that he's not. I wouldn't have said that, like I said, that football hooligan mentality, and that sort of in the calf, reading the Sun, and just all talking about gypsies and Muslims today and all that sort of stuff. Every headline that's been coming out for the last God knows how many years. All these totally. It's like it's literally slowly, this country's become more and more racist. Yeah.
Well, between the Sun and the Daily Mail. I mean, they're having a field. They have a field day.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, this is the EDL, the English Defence League, Britain First wet dream. Come they've made statements, haven't they? I haven't really followed much of that because, as I said, most of the day was spent not talking to reporters and just generally just being hassled by. But I have seen that they've made statements, and of course, my thoughts the same as yours and Robbie's was. Basically, what the hell? This is really going to step it up, and all these people, all of a sudden, it is classed as what he's done is classed as an act of terrorism. Yeah, he's attacked innocent people, and it's classed as an act of terrorism. All of a sudden, people, there's people. It's not as many, but people have started making comments, and a whole bunch of people that are sort of. Been thinking about keeping their mouth shut, maybe not keeping their mouth shut, and all that. All of a sudden, they bubble to the surface, and hatred is rife now.
Well, one of the things that you have to remember.
Yep.
Can I just jump in here for a second? I want to ask you, David. There's actually a couple of things I want to go over. First of all, I do want to thank you because I know that you have been getting bombarded today by mainstream media, and I do appreciate that you decided to bring your story to the alternative news media first.
Well, obviously, and as I said, me and Robbie are pretty good friends for a few decades now, and I follow his stuff and also support it. So
Thank you, and I just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate that. Now, I want to ask you. You had mentioned a couple of times now, talking with you, that he's now seen as a hero to some. He's done. You said you made the comment. You said he did what we all thought about doing.
Yeah, that was one. That was that original comment was from a Facebook user from Western. I found out about it. I saw that comment, and I was like, wow. I've at the moment there's a lot of people unfriending in Facebook friends at the moment because the comments are getting that. They're getting that bad. They're getting even. I mean. During the elections, there were people saying if you vote Conservative this time round, because clearly the NHS is going to be killed, they're like, oh, I'm going to unfriend you. And it's been getting like that. The divide has been getting stronger.
Yeah.
And I saw that comment, and I didn't know that it was actually about Darren at the time. I saw that comment, and I said, "Hoi, mate," to this guy. I said, "I thought you were a bit better than that," and I was about to unfriend him. And then and then all of a sudden, someone put a post out and said, "Look who's done it." I was like, "Whoa."
You see, this is the problem over the last few weeks, right, with the situation, because I'm in the UK and I got all my UK Facebook friends and Laurie and Marty and EJ. Welcome, EJ. Yeah.
Salutations.
Hi, EJ.
Salutations, David.
They can't see what I see, right? And I can't really relate to tell them this is bad, right? I have told them. But it's one thing. It's one thing telling someone, but seeing it in real time, and I'm telling you, it has been really, really, really bad. I mean, like. Boy.
Well, that's why I have a question for you, Robbie. You kind of jumped on it already. You said you felt like the UK was going to experience martial law, and I mean, like you guys have been experiencing like attacks for like the past like month. Like, it's crazy, if not more so. Like you said, you think you guys are going to experience martial law. Do you think, like, with the current environment, that's going to be the case?
Well,
I
yeah.
mean, look at what's going on in France right now. You know, they keep extending the state of emergency over there. You think that's going to happen over there?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the narrative is changing, not by the week. It's changing as a day. We've just had the Grenfell Tower, and now we got this. And before the Grenfell Tower, we had London Bridge, and then before London Bridge, we had Manchester, and so on. And next week it'll be something else, and it'll probably be two things. And it's getting to the point where, you know, this is playing right into the government's hands. They're not talking about Grenfell today.
So let me ask you a question. And this is kind of where I wanted to go with my last question. Do you think, as we've seen, every other attack up until today has been Muslim on? This is the first attack where it's been a white guy, a Caucasian, retaliating against the Muslims. Do you think that, you know, the old saying is, you know, the first one's always the hardest. Do you think that after today, this was kind of like opening the floodgates for a retaliation on both sides now?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And that was, I mean, you know, really, absolutely. I'm absolutely fuming. The fact that I know the guy, is just like, it's horrific, because I've been fearing this, as probably Robbie has himself. I've been fearing that this is going to happen, and all you have to do is follow how the situation developed from Nazi Germany, from the false flag communist thing, you know, from Hitler burning his own houses of parliament and blaming it on the communist terrorists, etc., to how it all moved. It moved very slowly but persistently towards a point of hysteria, and that point of hysteria, I think, was reached yesterday, Father's Day, when he did that. And all of a sudden now, there's people that want to stick up for him. There's people that want to go. There's people that want to go. Yeah, well, you know, and all this stuff. Unbelievable comments from British people. British people who fought against Hitler and fought against that sort of, that sort of horrendous racism. But all of a sudden, it's the same thing. All of a sudden, the voices are coming out, and then the EDL have jumped on it. They're horrendous. And all of a sudden, you just think, whoa, all of a sudden the climate overnight has changed from vicious debates to people are going to get vicious in the streets now. And if I was a Muslim in Britain today, I'm pretty uneasy right now, and very, very scared and threatened. I'd be willing to get out of it, to be honest.
Let me jump in here again. Now, I do know that, you know, we've had this attack. I just want to read something to you. It says that the attack was declared a terrorist incident within 8 minutes. Attack. It was declared a terrorist event within 8 minutes. Theresa May chaired a meeting of the Cobra Emergency Committee Monday morning. She said the attack was, quote, every bit as sickening, unquote, as other recent terrorist outrages. This was an attack on Muslims near their place of worship, and like all acts of terrorism, it seeks to divide us apart. May said that the early assessment was that the attacker acted alone. Security Minister Ben Wallace said the attacker was not known to security services. He added, we are aware of the rise in the far right. Jacinda Dix said the Finsbury Park incident was quite clearly an attack on Muslims. Jeremy Corbyn, whose constituency includes Finsbury Park, said he was shocked by this horrific and cruel attack. He visited the scene of the attack overnight and returned there on Monday morning. Sakai Khan, mayor of London, has condemned the incidences as a horrific terrorist attack on innocent Londoners. Amber Rudd has also chimed in. Let me ask you guys this. With all that we know about the recent attacks, I'm kind of taking. Let me ask you a personal question about Darren. involved, or has he ever been involved with possibly the, I don't know the right word for it because it just came up, but the IRA?
EDL? No,
EDL.
it's definitely not.
Do you know what I'm talking about? What is it, Robbie?
Are you on about the EDL?
Yes.
The England defence, the EDL, the far right group that's rising in Britain at the moment. Well, I say rising, it was not.
Do you happen to know if he was a
the EDL, I mean, he formed by Tommy Robinson. Basically,
it's formed by Tommy Robinson.
To find a better phrase, they're basically, to the general public have been dog shit. They're
like British Nazis.
They're like the British Nazis. They're like an offshoot of the British National Party, right? There was an offshoot of that, and then obviously we've got Britain's First. Now, the way the situation is arised, now we know the agenda behind these things, because I personally think that Tommy Robinson's an agent, right? An agent provocateur, right? For the elites, without proof you can't say that, but for the way the signs are there, how we know how the elite structure works, the way the media is working and the way the situation is coming about is that somebody's enemy will be somebody's hero the next day. Tommy Robinson, since the Manchester attacks and whatnot, has been all over the shop. He's got the video camera.
All of a sudden people have heard his voice again because he's got a voice. He's now got a voice and people are starting to listen to him. Well, before they'd have been like, shut up, we don't want to hear that shit.
They would have run him out of the streets, right? But now he's going to Mosque. He's going into Mosque. He's tackling imams. He's asking all
Robbie.
questions. Britain's First.
Robbie, you're breaking up.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I'll just say what he's breaking up. The question you asked was, do you think that Darren had any connections with EDL? Well, on a personal level, obviously I'm from Weston-super-Mare. He's been living in Cardiff and Newport for maybe the last 6 or 7 years. I've probably seen him in those last 6 or 7 years about twice when he's come to Weston. When I've seen him, I've just seen him in town, and it's like, all right, mate, how are you? I might have chatted to him in the pub for like 5 seconds or 5 minutes. And how's the kids, blah, blah, blah. So I can't say for sure what he's been up to, but all I could say is with his past background in football hooligans, I don't know if you remember back in the days when the National Front and everything were sort of coming up to a bit of a rise. Most, unfortunately, they were giving out flyers at football matches to football hooligans a lot because they wanted that element, they wanted that violent element in there to sort of create that to sort of just create a rise. They wanted those people that were prepared to go and kick off, and. So it's possible that in the last few years that with everything that's been going on, that Darren has maybe joined the EDL, because the one thing I will say about it is the timing and location and everything does seem to be. It looks like it's very strategic, is what I'd say.
So let me ask you a question, if I could, David. What would you say? What kind of narrative do you think they're trying to push? Like, what outside of the martial law agenda? Like, what kind of narrative do you think they're trying to push over there in London? Do you think they're trying to get like an anti-Muslim mindset, or just try to feed into the race war, or what kind of narrative do you think they're trying to push? As I say,
if you follow, there's a hell of a lot of parallels. As you may well know, with Hitler, as you know, Prescott Bush was imprisoned for laundering Hitler's money through the Western Union Bank, and the speech about the axis of evil, if you translate it to German, is the same as Hitler's speech. Close to that whole history repeating itself, but this time it's orchestrated history repeating itself. They're following is that instead of being Jews, it's Muslims. And again, if you look at Albert Pike and the planned three world wars and how they were planned, and he was right. Albert Pike was right about the other two, and it seems like we're following that whole that whole narrative, you know, an Illuminati narrative, basically, blatantly. And I do think that that Darren genuinely did what he did. It could be quite possible that he had some sort of connection with the EDL, because there's been a lot of people voting UKIP, which are virtually EDL in some aspects. And then of course you've got to take the Brexit vote, and that's completely changed. All of a sudden, everyone's gone, this is like shocking. It's like, well, we're going over and bombing the living daylights out of all the Muslim countries where we want the oil and everything. And then the refugees that are being created, we're going, we don't want them as well. It's like the same with our soldiers. We send the soldiers, well, I say we, not me. The elite send soldiers over to fight their oil grabbing wars. And then when they come in this country, if they come back injured and they've lost a leg and something, they don't even pay for their medical thing now. They've started up a charity called Help for Heroes. It's almost like, right, if you get damaged, we're not paying for it. It's that blatant. And I think that the narrative now is a deliberate narrative. Darren Osborne has basically gone and played that move that was bound to come. It was back that, anyone could predict something like that was going to happen. It's going to be, as I say, martial law, red alert, and police everywhere with guns, and that's the start of something really sinister. Sorry.
That's what I said. I think that this may be the catalyst that the right needs now to initiate. Like I said, the old saying, the first time's always the hardest. This may lead to other people saying, "Oh, if Darren did." Pardon me for repeating what was said, but Darren did what we all thought about doing. So I've
seen today at least 4 comments that support. I've seen on Facebook today at least 4 comments, and to be fair, 2 of the people that I know that have supported those comments are known racists in this town. So that's not surprising. But
so it's very disturbing that people are glorifying and sanctifying actually what he did.
Absolutely.
We can't forget that bottom line, somebody was killed today.
Yep. Absolutely, yeah.
Well, what's really interesting is
the way that a person killed, 11 people were injured on this. And, not to say, less of any of the other, real attacks or the real deaths. But, here we have a retaliatory action taking place. And, we may see now in other retaliatory actions.
Yeah, for all we know,
there's no May about it. Definitely. There's no May.
For all we know, there could be one going off right now as we're speaking. This is how the situation is. But yeah, Dave, you just come up with some really good points. In fact, Dave, I hadn't spoken to Dave for quite a while, maybe a couple of years, and he hit me up a few months ago and says, "Oh, Robbie, I've been watching your shows." I'm like, what? I ain't spoke to you for like 4 years, mate. Well, he's been following the Underground Resistance Network. So you obviously, some of the points that you're bringing up, you have been, you've been doing your homework, which is very
Rob, I started up an organised. Well, what we did is we started up a little group ourselves called the Eightfold Path, where we were just basically gathering up information, things like Zeitgeist and all that, and then with the free party scene around Bristol. We started up with the Ninja Hippies and that. We did a series of film showings at nightclub events called "And the Truth Shall Set You Free," where we put a hell of a lot of information that we thought people should know for a period of time, and then all of a sudden we all got everyone got busted for various bits and bobs, and but then from there I've continuously been doing pretty much the same as you, Robbie. And obviously, through my music and stuff, if you look on my YouTube, on the YouTube DVD, I made a DVD of all the old tracks, very old now. But the first thing I start with is with Zeitgeist compressed into like a couple of minutes, and then the bit where it says, and when you realise that the Zeitgeist they prey upon will fall like a house of cards. I've always been putting out is the same as you that these people that are controlling us, they are very few. They are the 1%. They are the elite minority, and they control us through the media of fear. They control us massively with the media. And if you look at the Rockefeller statements about, they've made loads of what's it called? What's it called? In plain sight.
Yeah. Mm.
They've made loads of statements. Everyone knows about the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. They don't even hide it. They just blatantly put it in plain sight, and there's enough information out there for you to clearly see what the hell is going on. And like you say, RFID chips, complete control, one world order, the whole lot. It's and especially and more recently and more on the table is Agenda 21, which apparently in America people are losing their land already.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is where the guys come in. This is
just to break
Bundy
in
Ranch situation.
Just to break in real quick, the Bundy Ranch situation. EJ, you have the floor as far as screen sharing, hon. Go ahead and do what you want on that.
All right. If anything, while I have the mic, David, a question I was going to ask you: what do people in London think about these types of things going on? Like, is there a discussion about some kind of reactionary measure without like letting the police get involved, or like is there kind of local involvement or community awareness, or like what are people going to do?
There's actually a guy from Western who lives in London. He's written a book recently, Simon Mason or whatever, and he made quite a clear point of being in London, because what you've got to bear in mind with London has been a very cosmopolitan city. So I personally think that a lot of people in London said all this talk, all different races, Muslims, Jews, and everyone, and he basically didn't support it at all. He wouldn't support that. I'm not too sure how many people in some of the main cities where there's a lot of a big mix of people. I think there's still quite a lot of tolerance going on, and quite a lot of I'm not supporting this. I've grown up with these people in my street. I've grown up in Tooting or wherever with all these people that are my friends. And I'm not going to start hating my friends because of the media. I think there's quite a strong opposition especially in the main cities, even Manchester.
But
it's outside of the main cities. I think that's where it's really in the conservative rural.
Yeah, the thing is,
I think it's really
what they're doing, right? What they're doing is they're setting the stage to give you a choice, right? Now you could ignore that choice. Right. What they'll do is they'll keep turning up the screws, and I'll keep presenting you with the same choice. Right. Now, eventually, right, somebody down the road is going to crack on that choice and change, because we know they flip the script. They're flipping the script. Right. One minute you're an enemy, one minute you're a friend. Then they'll turn a friend into an enemy, right? And they're turning people on each other and using social media as their platform, right? Because every time something happens, then social media, Facebook just blows up with all this, and it's like, oh my God, did you just say that? I don't believe you didn't say that. I didn't think you had those kind of views. Wow, interesting.
Exactly. Some of the comments, they're just horrific. Now, I thought it was going to take longer this, but I'm listening to even before the events of yesterday. I've been reading certain comments on Facebook, and I thought, do you know what? You're unfriended immediately. And at a point of principle, just literally, I've started to unfriend a lot of people because some of the comments that they make, it's like literally, you might as well be Hitler, as far as I'm concerned. It's like literally severe hatred being thrown around social media, and from British people, which is just the new. Who is this new British person that we're talking about? This person from Brexit that doesn't want any refugees. We go in and fight these wars. We go and fight these wars and say, the human rights records are terrible. Well, we all care about human rights records of Muslims in the countries with the oil, but we don't care about Saudi Arabia, do we? We're fine with them, and they've got terrible human rights records. It's so obvious, but yet, even though it's so obvious to quite a lot of us that can see, it's also actually really working what they call in this country the sun reader mentality, which is definitely an insult to a certain type of person. Your local Joe who reads the Sun and goes, oh, that's terrible, believes everything he reads, and reacts in the way that they want to. And then, people like these Illuminati controllers, they're having their way through all these different forms of media, the goddess, they're blatantly, it's working. And that's what's horrific to a lot of people who maybe thought, tradition in this country of like, you know, really satirizing the politicians. We used to have spitting image and everything like that, and we've had some pretty severe riots and stuff and everything else. And it looks like, it's just the mentality, the supposed mentality of the new British person is shocking. It literally is like Germany have become the tolerant country, and we've become like we're turning into what appears to be like a Nazi country. It's unbelievable. It's shocking.
That's what I was going to ask. If there's like it doesn't seem like there's ever been like a really fierce racial issue, but with all these things going on, it seems that they're literally trying to foment like a mindset. And people have to realize that race is not religion. And those are two separate things. It seems like this narrative that they're trying to push is just to do that. Is to persecute Muslims. And I don't even know if it's so much Islam. It's just like the Muslim concept right now. And because we know it's not Muslims. It's like some radical extremist sect of what could be considered Islam. I don't know. It's crazy.
Well, you're looking at the security for the services, MI5, MI6, CIA, FBI, Mossad. You know, these are all stooges and trained. You know, we've put up how many videos and how many memes and how many pieces of information explaining that ISIS. Okay, we'll wind the clock back a bit. Al Qaeda on the
CIA trained.
Well, the Al Qaeda means the database, right, on the FBI, on the CIA database, and that's what Al Qaeda is. In fact, the actual name of it wasn't apparent to Osama bin Laden until we saw it after 9/11. That's they're calling us Al Qaeda, you know, and we know that's his real operating name is Tim Osman. He's a CIA operative. In fact, there's a lot of talk that he's still alive, you know, and you know, people need to understand that ISIS is no different. It is no different whatsoever. They are trained mercenaries. They were trained in Saudi Arabia. They were funded, you know, by America and Great Britain, and into some aspects of Israel. And, you know, ISIS is an acronym for the Israeli Intelligence Secret Service. And, you know, make with it what you will. But people will not believe that unless they see it on Sky News, CNN, or Fox News. It's not going to compute with them. So when you've got the mentality of people saying Western Supermare, of saying this, that, and the other, do you blame them? They don't know. Listen, they're not going to wake up, because they don't know what they don't even know that they're supposed to wake up, or what they're going to wake up to.
Can I just interject about Western? Can I just say that the massive majority of Western people, and anyone that knew him, and like myself, are all going, "You stupid twat." Excuse my language, but everyone's disgusted and horrified. But there's a few people, like I say, that what I'm saying in Western and around the country, there's a few people that if they would have spoken last week and said anything remotely in support of it, people would be like horrified, unfriending them and worse. But all of a sudden, like I say, there's a new platform where people can say, well, they can say these things, and it's even been since Brexit, where people could make what normally would be comments that would even be against the law in this country to a degree, but all of a sudden that hatred's now been, they've opened the floodgates, said hate away people, and if you want, start scrapping with each other, we don't mind, we've got control over you anyway. If you want to, especially in the inner cities, if you want to all start really kicking off with each other, have massive gang wars, loads of killings, even civil war, we don't care, because that gives us full authority to take away all your rights, stick loads of police and army in there and control you to the point where we want to, so that we can start really forwarding the agenda. So feel free to hate. And it's almost like there's been a consent to get involved in it. And it is horrific, but it's reality. And that's what we've all got to realise, is that this reality is upon us now. It's upon us in America. It's upon us in Britain. You know, like in Greece, where the refugees are one of the first ports they come, massive Nazi organisations. I can't see. I really did believe that the average British person was a lot more savvy than this, and that they wouldn't react to it, and that they would see it. Even George Bush, when he was making comments about these conspiracy theorists, surely on national news when he's talking about conspiracy theorists, that's going to make most people want to have a look into what he's on about. Off in the frame and say, all these conspiracy conspiracy theorist, but I actually believe that there are a lot of people out there now, British people, that are aware of conspiracies. They're not stupid. They know that it's all about oil. They know it's all about the euro dollar. I mean, the oil dollar or the
petrodollar.
Dollars, yeah, the petrodollar. Thanks, Robbie. I lost myself there. There's a lot of people out there that understand what's going on quite clearly. They understand that your average soldier's working for a massive oil cartel. They understand that, that we're getting raped by all our assets. The National Health Service, the banks are robbing us. They're completely aware of what's going on, and then they're just choosing to go, yeah, but I'm scared. I want to defend my family, and it's like, well, hang on a minute. You're scared and you want to defend your family and you want to get involved in this stuff, but it's bullshit. And it's like, yeah, but I don't really care. I'm scared. I'm just like, fuck it. And like now, like I said,
fears are the best motivators.
Yeah, so it's literally common sense and intelligence, and that personality that used to, the satirical personality of the British person who would, like I said, we've always really seriously ripped it out of our politicians. And all of a sudden, it's like, well, who are these? What does it mean to be British now? Everyone's making comments about Muslims. Everyone's making comments about refugees. Everyone wants to be separate. No one wants to be united. No one supports. No one supports the British that went and fought Hitler and against all of that anymore. They all want to forget about it. There are people in pubs are going, yeah, I'd buy Hitler a drink. It's just like, what is going on? Who are we?
Whoa. That's just like, whoa.
yeah, it's just like...
But I just like, before I pass the floor back on to Laurie and EJ, I'd just like to interject again and let you know that today it will be Muslims, tomorrow it will be a new demographic, and then so on and so on and so on until it comes to you.
And how? Yeah, and how do we stop it, Robbie? That's the thing. How can we? It's getting to the point now. It's getting to the point. Well, it's 50-50 at the moment. If you want to make some harsh comments, if you want to make hot comments supporting the Finsbury Act yesterday, then there's still going to be people going, "Oi, mate, shut up," which I'll be one of them. But then there's both sides, and it's still. But it's bubbling. It's a volcano about to erupt, as far as I'm concerned.
So, what, if you don't mind me asking, David, how do you guys defend yourself? Because I know you guys have a very, very strict gun law or gun control over there. Do you have people like patrolling the streets outside of the cops, or do you guys have
Okay, so at the moment, the British Bobby or whatever, it's been for many, many years that they've only gun wielding ones in airports, really, I suppose. But that's changed over the last year or two, whatever. There's lots and lots of police now walking around with machine guns, which is a deliberate change. And, in this country, because I lived in Los Angeles for a couple of years, and I know exactly what it's like with all the guns and we've kind of just had the same. It's been quite quiet for a few years. But back during the poll tax riots and the miners' strikes, the football hooliganism and the mods and the rockers, there was a lot of violence. But again, most of that violence between gangs and other things and different things, it's always been very low key as far as guns and things like that are concerned, because it's completely different to America. But so to defend yourself, really, it's always been that's why that's the sort of. We've got a lot of aggression and violence. Well, we've had it in the past, right. But it's always remained. Not in America. It's crazy. I've been there and I've been scared by it. I've seen a drive-by shooting on Hollywood Boulevard, and I think about 20 people were killed. Which, when we in context to what we're talking about now as a national news event, one person's killed and. Not sure if that's actually, I've actually been on Hollywood Boulevard and I've seen a whole bunch of guys just shooting into a local pedestrian. It was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. And with regards to that, I think that the violence or the aggression is going to spread out into gangs. Like when I say gangs, they probably call themselves organisations like the EDL. There's no doubt that the EDL are going to start making some moves, I think, now. Yep. I think they'll be if nothing else, they'll be shouting out in the streets and trying to give out leaflets or something like that.
David, I want to just jump in real quick. Back to Darren. Now, he lived in, he was living in a town.
Cardiff.
Is it Cardiff? Okay.
Yeah, that's where he and his family were living.
Right. But his neighbors were Muslims who, according to reports earlier, they had no problems with him. He was very, he was never trying to get into arguments, confrontational with them. There was an incident last night where the girl and the boy were out. There's two girls. There's three children altogether. The boy and the girl were outside. The girl was inside with the mother. The windows were open. They heard him say very calmly, inbred, or you inbreed. And the girl that was inside with the mother said, "Did you hear that?" And the mother says, "Yes, but I think he was talking to the dog." That was about the only, confrontation that they've had with the neighbors. What do you make of it? I mean,
I wouldn't. The Darren that I know, and also the Darren that Robbie knows, or knows of, I wouldn't say that he was. It may well be that his neighbours didn't know him very well and he didn't have anything to do with him. But I wouldn't say that in general. Again, I can't really talk for the last few years because, as you know, he's been living outside of Weston. But I wouldn't say that anyone who knew him from Weston would say that he was like, a sort of,
non-confrontational.
He was pretty damn confrontational most of the time, and if he wasn't being confrontational, he was. People were always wary of him. If he turned up at a party or something like that, people would immediately be wary because he was well known for doing sporadic acts of violence that seemed completely unnecessary and over the top. And this is the ultimate expression of that. And as someone who's known him, that's the one thing I must say is I'm not surprised by it. I'm not, and I don't think. I think it's a genuine thing that's happened that he's done.
So in other words, of all the people that you've known, when you heard this name, you weren't really shocked?
There's a lot of people that are just like, you bloody idiot. There's not very many people that it's obviously a shock to know someone, but I don't think there's many people that are thinking, oh, he didn't do that, he's a lovely guy. Most people that knew him knew he had a massive criminal record, a massive history of violence, and that he could be very unpredictable, which made him socially, he was social. If you knew him, it was okay. If you didn't know him, everyone that knew of him was like, oh yeah, him. He was continuously getting involved in what would be considered most of the time sporadic acts of violence that's didn't seem warranted.
Criminality.
So it wouldn't be too far off to say that if by some chance he fell into the wrong crowd or started talking to some kind of people who were just looking for somebody to radicalize,
he could for
Patsy, and then just give him everything he needs, and then just like a wind-up toy, have him go do it.
Again, I'm not. Go on, sorry, Robbie.
No, it's this, Marty. It's interesting that y'all bring that up because he has random acts of violence, and it didn't matter the race. He just had random acts of violence, and we know that the elite, every time that an opportunity presents itself, they don't let it go to waste. So they immediately go to the terrorism aspect against the Muslims. But it's interesting. I sent some links to Robbie and to EJ and to Lori, that in the past 24 hours, there were 3 attacks in the United States as well against Muslims.
Wow, right. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, this is it. We've got this connection, haven't we? And it's like, like as I said, I haven't seen or spoken to Darren for at least a year, I'd say. And then before that, the last however many years he's been away, I've seen him maybe twice. So it is possible. I wouldn't put it past. It is possible that maybe he's taken up some of these, whether it be from Brexit or whatever. It's possible that he's seen people making these comments and that he's easily thought, right. And it is quite that it could be possible that the act that he did was what we say a strategic operation. It could be that he was acting, and I'd say for something like the EDL. It may well be that he's joined
somebody else in the vehicle with him.
I don't know where that's come from. Robbie said that earlier as well, and I've scanned it, and I don't know about that. I can't see that. It says that it says he hired a van from there.
Broke up. What was that? You're not sure about what?
About who was in the van. As I say, for me, I've only really found out about it today, so I haven't really. I'm not like Robbie.
I've read reports there were 3 other people in the van.
Really?
No, it's something worth looking into. Yeah.
So again, I wouldn't be surprised if he was driving past the mosque and someone said, "Oh, that's Finsbury's Park Mosque," and he instantly, without pre-planned meditation, just went right and rammed into him with a random act of violence without thinking about it. And I also would be surprised if he thought, "Do you know what? I'm going to flipping make a name for myself," and hired a van out with the intention of going there and doing that. Or I wouldn't be surprised if he was part of an organisation and they were going, what we need is someone to plough into Finsbury Park Mosque and do those buggers or something like that. And he's done that. So they're all possible. But one thing I don't think, is that he didn't do it. I'm pretty sure that he did it, and he did it. He probably thinks everything. Yeah.
Here's the interesting thing. The interesting thing is this. If there are 3 other people in the van, he is the main focus, and we've heard nothing else about the other people that were in the van.
Well, if there were 3 people in the van, it could well be 3 people who just went, I don't know what happened, he just went mental, he was just giving us a lift or something like that. But then you're right. If it could be there were 3 other people in the van saying that it could be from an organisation, which I'd say something like the EDL or something like that.
No, but that's what makes it interesting. The focus is on the gentleman that you and Robbie know. He's the one with this picture plastered through the news. He's the one that they're talking about. You had 3 other attacks here in the United States, and they're really not talking about it. It's really hush-hush. They're too busy talking about the plane being shot down by the United States and Syria and Russia, saying that now American planes are targets. And the guy that from Korea suddenly died, even though he was in a coma. But you have a gentleman in England who's a known hooligan who commits random acts of violence regardless of race. It doesn't matter if you're British, Muslim, whatever. That could have easily been said about him in the past. Like I say, I
would be interested to find out if there were these 3 people. I read one headline to say that 7 people. They were talking about in the line that says something like he was put into the ambulance and then 7 other people were taken into an ambulance. Robbie, have you got the headline there, Robbie, of where it says that about these 3 people?
No, it was when I was speaking to Sharon earlier on today, when she was trying to fill me in. She said that, because she had a totally different view of the whole thing. She said there's something really odd about the whole thing, that there's a very good possibility that he may have been set up.
Well, let's take that. Let's just look at that. Let's go down that avenue. So let's just say that, Darren is committing crime. And he's done something. I mean, I don't know how terrible it would be. And then they've said, right, here you are. You can, I mean, that to me is probably less likely that they've said, right, you've done this. You're looking at 7 years, son. But if you do this, or I don't know what you mean, or whether he was just there, or whether he was there, a known criminal.
She said to me something along the lines that he was in prison in Cardiff. Now, she said, what was he doing out of prison in a van going into London? Right? Which I found very odd indeed.
That's kind of sketchy.
Well, I see, again, Sharon, I mean, like I said, I don't know. I haven't heard from him for the last few years, so I don't know what he's been up to.
Well, here's the interesting thing for everybody to think about real quick. England is one of the most heavily closed caption TV countries in the world. There's a camera everywhere. Are you on
about surveillance, CCTV?
Yes, CCTV.
Yes, absolutely. Apparently, it's the most.
So they should have, when the accident happened, they should, just like the bombing, they should have footage of this van suddenly going off into these people. They should have footage of the gentleman, especially outside a mosque, where they think that there's loads and loads of terrorist activity going on. Exactly. And then they should have film of him coming out of the vehicle or getting out of the vehicle, him getting beat up, and whoever else was in the van.
They've got film of him being let go by a load of Muslims that have been holding him down, and he's pretty black and blue. He's definitely been beaten up.
Yeah, but they don't have the film of him getting out of the van. They're not showing that, and whoever else was in the van, if there was somebody else in the van.
Can I just interject here about something that Chris Everard wrote yesterday? All right, this is what he wrote. London Muslim attack update. The Ram Raider attack happened just 5 hours ago near Finsbury Park Mosque. This is mosque is basically a recruiting centre for Islamist extremism in Britain and has close links to MI6. Hate preacher Abu Hamza, who was eventually deported from Finsbury and sentenced to life in prison by a judge in New York after killing dozens of people in planned attacks, was the boss of Finsbury Park Mosque throughout the 1990s. Many CIA, MI5, MI6 and Mossad stooges were trained at the mosque, including 9/11 killer Zacharias Messiah and shoe bomber Richard Reed. Hamza published violent messages following the 9/11 attacks. He said the atrocities had made everybody happy in Finsbury. The mosque was also linked to the terror attacks in France, with reports that Sheriff Kouyachi, one of the Charlie Hebdo terrorists, was mentored by Jamal Begal, an Al-Qaeda terrorist based at the mosque in the late 1990s, who had been influenced by hook-handed Hamza. But have the police shut the mosque down? No. Instead, it has become a radicalized hodgepodge of MI5, MI6, CIA, FBI, Mossad, and freelance suicide bombers. The local MP is Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah, so there you go, Robbie. Now that's one of the things that I thought when you talk about all the possibilities. One of the things is, you know, was it a strategically planned attack where he's been signed up to do it, and there's an organisation behind it. And that, I've got to say, when you talk about if you were going to choose a target, right, and if you really wanted to cause some shit and you really wanted to stir some stuff up, that is definitely got to be the number one target, hasn't it?
Well, you got to look at it.
Surely.
You got to look at it this way. What are we not talking about today? What is the world not talking about? Well, I'll tell you what the world's not talking about. The fact that Russia, right, because the United States shot down a Syrian fighter jet, right, they have now said that anything east of the Euphrates, any American fighter jet that goes east of the Euphrates is now considered a legitimate target. And I think that was probably the biggest news story of the day, and nobody's talking about it.
Yeah.
And also at the White House today, they wouldn't allow cameras. They wouldn't allow microphones for the news briefing. The reporters were only allowed to have paper, but the Russians were allowed to have their recording devices.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God!
Talking about that.
Wow.
They're also not talking about the 3 killings that happened within the past 24 hours of Muslim people. Like they're trying to inflame or start something, and I guess it just didn't work. So the perfect distraction was your good friend, who, whether he did it on purpose because he's
my good friend, I'm going to say definitely not now.
Well, not your friend, you know, but a gentleman that y'all know.
Yeah.
And then he happens to do it in the place that's heavily monitored and watched. Yeah. But once again, we don't have the film.
That is very, 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 very interesting and valid point. And yeah, I mean, the one thing I'm for sure is he definitely did it and all that. He wasn't planted. I don't think he was in the area and someone's blamed him. I definitely think he did it, but I must say, with what Robbie's just read out as well, it does seem. I mean, I don't. Maybe he's just been thinking about it a lot and planning it on a personal level for as inverted commas, a glory story in the present climate. He's the first. You know, he's made history in this country from what's about to come. He's the first retaliation, like, you know, in almost the same style, but he didn't commit suicide and he didn't have a bomb. You know, and. But the target and the timing and everything, it does seem it seems professional, doesn't it?
Yeah, well,
highly suspect.
Well, what Sharon pointed out is that within minutes, right, Skycam, right, from Sky TV, they were in place pretty quickly. The police cordon was put in place really quickly, right. Everything was all there. The emergency services, blah blah blah, all kind of swooped in really quickly, right? You know, you can make up any you know, you can make anything of that. But you know, from past experience watching these events, it seems like, you know, it was very convenient what happened.
And the Muslims didn't kill him.
and they didn't kill him. 15 minutes, they held him. Obviously, they give him a beating, but they didn't kill him. But when I was watching the footage of him actually being put onto the ambulance or the police van or whatever, right? The whole scene, yeah, the whole scene just looked a little bit odd, especially with it was almost as if it was the fake outrage from the Muslims. Yeah, it looked like it was, it was a scene, an organised rally from something that was put together by CNN. We've seen that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It didn't look kind of normal. It didn't look organic enough to me. It just, because if someone had just run over one of my friends, yeah, I'd be picking up the biggest paving stone. I want to cave his head in, and I'd be you know what I mean? It would be like, it just seems a little bit. Isn't it just a little bit?
And not only that, but the amount of people, the actual amount of people that were there. I mean, that is what would you call it? A mob lynching, wouldn't it? I mean, there was lynching.
He did look like they'd messed up his face a little bit. I don't know if you saw those.
Oh, he's definitely had a beating, but then apparently, like they said, they said that he held him there for 15 minutes.
Here's a tricky thing, because I lived in England for a while. If they get you down on the ground, they're gonna stomp the crud out of you. There's concrete everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's another interesting twist with the media. It's like, the media have gone forward with that and said, oh, these Muslims held him, they held him down for 15 minutes and waited for the police. And so that is a very strange twist on let's all hate Muslims. It's the Muslims and Muslims. And you'd have thought maybe most of the papers would leave that out, that they were really nice and held him for 15 minutes and all told each other to stop doing that because it's not what they're all about and sort of stuff. You'd have thought, in general, they'd left that out of the headlines, and they'd have been like,
it's all part of the dialectic, though, isn't it? Yeah.
Here's a question for you, everybody, and you and Robbie would know mostly. Does that mosque promote Sharia law?
Yes.
Didn't the imam actually come out and say
it's a very controversial mosque?
Yes, it is very. It's been in and out of the headlines since 9/11, since 2001. If anything that goes on, any big terrorist attack or anything like 7/7 or whatnot, everything always goes back to Finsbury Mosque. Yeah, it does. It's never out of the news. That's
what I said. It's definitely a number one target for retaliation.
It's probably got more cameras than where the Queen's jewels are. Right? You know what I'm saying? They are watching that place 24/7.
Well, right? Think about it. If they promote Sharia law, what would be the law for an infidel to kill any of their followers from that mosque?
He's in a lot of trouble. That's the one thing. If he's done this randomly, he hasn't thought it through.
My guy's in deep shit. He is in
he hasn't thought it through, because basically, as we know at the moment with the climate, the prisons are full of Muslims. And I don't know how many what they white supremacists or neo-Nazis. I don't know how many of them are in prison.
But he's going to need 24-hour armed protection.
Yeah, because the way he's waving, apparently he was waving and blowing kisses and saying, "I did my bit." He hasn't. I don't think he's thought that through about prison. He's virtually he's going to be surrounded by a lot of people. But then the other thing is, apparently he was shouting out, "Kill me, kill me."
That's even more high. That's more suspect.
Well, yes. The thing is, he is a nutter. That's the one thing I want to definitely iterate. In all the time that we've known him and Weston's known him, he's absolutely known for being a total nutter, an unpredictable, aggressive, violent nutter.
But he's aggressive towards everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing.
Not quite everyone, because he was always quite cordial to me and his close friends. Let
me rephrase it. So and let me tick off some points. You heard from your friend that he was supposed to be in prison, and then he's driving around London. Okay, he goes to a mosque that's heavily watched. It should have close the CCTV everywhere, showing the whole scene of everything that happens.
Absolutely.
He goes to a mosque that promotes Sharia law. He's known for attacking anybody. It doesn't matter your race. He likes confrontation. He likes to fight. He's a hooligan.
Yeah.
He runs these people over. He kills one, injures 7. They don't kill him.
Yeah.
They're not showing. You also heard that there's possibly 3 other people in the van with them, and so now this is within minutes. You have the news and everything else there. The police have cordoned it off.
Within 8 minutes, they said they had labeled it a terrorist attack.
Yep.
8 minutes.
What is interesting though today is, for me personally, as I said, I didn't realise it. I don't know whether it was me or the few people on Facebook that discussed it at that time. I didn't realise that they hadn't named it yet. And when we talk about premeditated false flag media reports, I can verify quite clearly they didn't know what was going on. The Mail, the Daily Express, the Sun, the Guardian, everything, and they were all scrambling for information. So as far as a premeditated, pre-set up report or anything goes, they knew nothing about that. If you're talking about inside, like, I don't know, MI6 and any of that sort of stuff, then that doesn't matter. But as far as the media, the media go, they clearly didn't know anything, because they were really...
Well, most media didn't know anything, but Robbie said that somebody was there within... How many minutes, Robbie?
Minutes.
Somebody already had the sky whatever set up.
Skycam, yeah, Skycam.
So they were already waiting. They were basically waiting for it to unfold.
Right, which begs the question again: How did they get there so quickly, and what was their purpose of getting there so quickly? And where have we seen this movie before?
Which led me, because knowing, I mean, you and I have been talking about this all day, Robbie, and we've been looking at this information since early morning. That's why I asked the questions that I asked: is could he possibly be a pawn, you might say, for the extreme right?
Well, I think that's a possibility. I think if you look at all of the possibilities, the one thing that I'm suspicious of is that the site is so strategic. It's such an absolute maximum impact target. It is the ultimate target. So that whether or not he would have thought that through, or whether or not, but that would imply maybe that he's part of some organisation and that he was, as you said, a pawn.
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at it. I mean, he's in Cardiff, right, and he's hired a van, right? Now, he could have gone anywhere in the UK with that van. He could have gone to Weston-super-Mare, he could have gone to Bristol, he could have gone anywhere just for a drive around. He somehow, right, by sheer chance, he decides to go to London, to Finsbury Park, to the most controversial mosque in Great Britain,
on Father's Day, and carry
out an act of attempted murder. In fact, it was murder.
There's another thing.
Yeah.
There's another thing. Yeah. He chose Father's Day. The man is a father of 4.
It really is strategy. You know, as the guy that I know, and the guy that Robbie knows, I'm sure, it does seem a little bit
out of character.
Well, yeah, it's just very, very strategically planned, and let's just put it, a professional job. So the timing, the day, the fact that it was Father's Day, the choice of target, the timing politically and everything else.
It was well orchestrated.
Yes, it seems very well orchestrated. And I, as someone who's known him for a long time, it seems, I mean, it's possible, but it's possible that he's been reading all news but it also does seem a little bit suspect. It's like, I could easily believe that someone was behind that orchestration, that he was being a pawn, as you said.
Lori, what were you going to say?
He rented this van. I mean, to me, when I hear rented van and I hear terrorist attack, I think of Timothy McVeigh and the Oklahoma City bombing. You know, I mean, a person doesn't just rent a van for shits and giggles. They rent it for a purpose. And the fact that he rented this on Father's Day and found himself in the strategic location at this strategic time, you got to ask yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with that. And the other thing is like you said about him being in prison. I've not had contact with him for many years, as I said. So it may well be. I mean, that's probably a little bit more far-fetched, but still possible that he was in prison and literally they've sort of said, go and do this and we'll give you a new identity or something. I don't know.
Well, it remains to be seen what is going to happen now, because obviously there's going to be a court case. It's going to be a media sensation. And, you know, I think that, you know, the court You know,
and see how it unfolds as well, Robbie. See if there's the footage that that you mentioned. See if that footage does actually start to get revealed. Maybe it takes a few days to get released. Maybe the police have to look at this. But you're absolutely right. There should definitely be a lot more footage of, you know, they're not going to show a van plowing into a load of people because that's too much. But they could easily show a van heading towards a load of people, and they probably could show. They could probably show, like, you know, a load of angry Muslims attacking a man in the street. They did show a load of people holding him down, and he obviously has been beaten up. So.
Because I mean, it's Finsbury Park, not far from Islington. I mean, Islington, what is that? That's a high Jewish population as well.
Yeah, that's. I mean, is Finsbury Park? Is Finsbury Park like Islington is a massively Jewish population? Isn't Finsbury Park quite a massive Muslim area?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, pretty much smack bang next to each other.
And like you say, the fact that it's Corbyn's blooming. Now that's the one thing.
Yes,
that makes you think. When you think of it, with it being Corbyn's thing, it always seems like something to do with Conservatives and.
Yeah, you know, I mean, also in the news today, the thing about Theresa May clinging on to power, her backbenchers and her Conservative core members have basically given her 10 days to get her act together, or she's out.
Yes, right? And that, again, that's like Corbyn. It's not looked good on Corbyn, has it?
No, well, it is actually looking better on Corbyn as the days go by. But the fact of the matter is, she's now cancelled the 2018 Queen's speech, right, which will effectively keep her in government for 2 years, right? At the same time, the knives are coming out for her, right? She's not strong and stable. She's proper weak and wobbly.
No confidence. She's got no vote of confidence in it at the moment. She's very...
Well, she's a robot. In fact, I actually said the other day, her mannerisms remind me of a Rothschild. Yeah.
I know.
Can I just say, Robbie, I am a robot. I come from outer space.
let me throw three things at you real quick, and we'll know if this was possibly engineered. Number one, and they should show the film if he's plowing into people, because only one person died.
I think that should, in the next few days, that may evolve, because you're absolutely right. There's no question that there are going to be absolutely, I'd say, hundreds of cameras on that site.
Yeah, well, let me predict the future for you real quick. You're not going to get that film of it plowing in. No. You're not going to see anybody get out about it. It's going to be talked about constantly. The Muslim population is going to get agitated, become distrustful, and the people that have been hiding their racial hatred are going to be spitting it out more.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And it is. I wish, at the moment, I'm still, like, from the events of today, I'm still in a bit of shock and I'm still processing it. But I am horrified, and more than anything, I do not agree with holding the vibration of fear in any way, shape or form, especially if it's been programmed by media. But I must admit, right now, I'm feeling a little apprehensive and uneasy about the whole situation, and I'm thinking that things are going to seriously escalate from this, and had it not have happened, they wouldn't. And that really is really, really horrific. Really. It's really disturbing. It's disturbing.
It's going to snowball. It's going to snow. It's snowball.
Quicker, isn't it? I think
we know with snowballs, yeah, when they pick up speed, they start to get bigger and bigger.
The media are definitely going to feed on this.
The thing with people's attitudes, they've been afraid to speak up and what. But the thing with the general population of Great Britain, they've got this Spartacus attitude, yeah? When one person stands up and shouts, "I'm Spartacus," someone else will do that, and then you know how it goes.
Clearly, and Brexit's proven that. Yeah. That's what Brexit's proven. As long as they haven't rigged that, if everyone voted that, it's proven. It's proven that that's what people are secretly thinking.
Well, no, it was actually proven that it was rigged. Yeah, that it was another Masonic con job. Yeah, all the signs were put out there. We saw the signs. We reported on the Brexit. We reported on the Scottish referendum being rigged. They rigged the Brexit in favour for us to come out in order to start the ball rolling of the chaos that we are now experiencing. Yeah, we were never going to come out of Brexit, because the people that engineered the Brexit were the very people that set up the EU in the first place, which is the precursor to the One World Government, New World Order system.
Yeah, we called this months ago. I do have a question. Now, since middle of March, we've seen the uptick of the SAS walking in the streets of London. Are you now doing that? Are you guys now seeing? Has the SAS, were they just now dispersing off of the streets, or has that been a constant focus on, And I do want to ask. I'm going to ask you that, David, but also Robbie, I want to ask you, and then you guys can both answer. Yeah. You sent me a video today of where you live. Beautiful, beautiful place, by the way. What is your feeling? I mean, being out on the street. I know you took the dog. You went for a walk today. You guys, did your running around. And I mean, are you guys feeling stress? I mean, when you run into the Muslims that are there, I mean, is there a tension between the two? And I'm gonna let you guys both answer those questions.
Okay, shall I go first? Well, as far as the SAS thing's going, yeah, it was winding down. It's probably going to increase now. As far as in Western goes, a lot of people have been mentioning over the last day, well, since that event, there's been absolutely loads of police with machine guns and absolutely loads of police riot vans and police cars all over the place. People were wondering what was going on. It's obviously clear what's happened now. As far as being afraid of, in my particular area, which I'd class as Bristol, because we're 20 miles, the main city next to me is Bristol. I have to praise people in Bristol. In my opinion, people in Bristol are very, very clued up, and you'd have to really, really push it to create any sort of racial tensions in any way in Bristol, because a lot of people, everyone's very tolerant, everyone's very clued up, a lot of awakened people, and a lot of anti-politics and anti-media in Bristol. So as far as on the locals, Western, I'm like I said, a few of these comments that have come out from a few Westerners, and I must say they are a few, but nevertheless, doesn't matter whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, just the fact that they're actually saying that is like, whoa. And we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it unfolds over the next few days. I'm certainly pessimistic about what's going to happen. I do feel that it's going to. I'll have to see what happens over the next few days on the local social media, and I know there's going to be some pretty lively debate and probably people threatening to fight each other. And I was so angry by the comment from Eric George saying Darren Osborne from Western wasn't a terrorist. He just did what we were all thinking. I was really angry. I wanted to get involved in that. I thought, you know what? I'm not going to get involved in negativity. No way. But I really, really wanted to go, oi. But I'd already done it. I'd already been caught out at the beginning of the day by doing it with someone else. And then they go, oh, it's Darren. Anyway, that's Robbie.
Yeah, Laurie, could you ask me the same question again, please? I was just so ingrained in his answer. Yeah.
What I asked you was, you took the dog for a walk today. You sent me videos of where you live. You sent me still pictures, and very beautiful, by the way.
Yeah.
When you're out and about, and when you're in public like this, because I know you walk the dog a lot. When you run into the Islamic or the Muslims, is there a tension that you're feeling? Is it something that's like more so now than it was, say, 6-8 months ago?
Not necessarily on the same level as if it is up country towards Weston-super-Mare. You've got to remember that I'm only 80 miles away from Bristol, right? I'm literally an hour's drive. Weston-super-Mare is actually on the way. Yeah, obviously one of the reasons why there was a huge amount of armed police on the streets of Weston-super-Mare is because one of their former residents was involved in a terrorist attack. Now, that being said, there wouldn't be anything that would suggest that the situation here wouldn't change if some local got involved in the same kind of thing. At the moment, it's not really we're not kind of experiencing it other than what we're seeing on the mainstream media, right? But Marty brought up a great point a couple of weeks ago in a conversation with me about the SAS, right? Now, we know the SAS, the special forces, right? If they were on the streets, right, you wouldn't know about it, right? They would not show their face, right? Obviously for operational reasons. So whoever it was they put on the streets was, They must have been posing as SAS, because if the SAS was out there right now, they'd be posing as a homeless man or something like that. Because basically, the premise of what I'm trying to say is that with the Manchester thing, with the Manchester attack, and I'll say that in inverted commas, right? They were saying that there was a presence in special forces out there posing as homeless people, right? And it was quite funny that or ironic that they had a certain homeless guy that apparently carried out some victims and whatnot. He became famous. They gave him £30,000 or whatever it was they gave him, and took him off the streets. And then a few days later, he's back on the streets. Where's his money? What happened there? Right? What was his role? Why is it that they made such a thing as talking about him and showing him in the media, right? And then, you know, he gave him the story of what happened, and the next thing he's back on the street again, right? Because they're asking, well, what's he doing back on the street? Yeah, well, you know, with this SAS thing, you know, I don't think that they're going to actually be visible, right? You know, they're going to be walking around as, you know, it's going to be like a Jade Helm 15 kind of type scenario, integrating in with the public. They're not going to be known because they are, you know, we've seen the film Who Dares Wins. You know, we know the situation of the embassy Iranian hostage situation, and I remember it well. I was watching it on that day. It was the same day that my nan died in front of me, right? I remember that very well. Remember how
Robbie, I actually know one of the people that came down them ropes.
Yeah, right. So we listen now. The reason I asked you to remind me about the question is that one of my good friends, and I was having a conversation with you tonight, Laurie, about the woman that I was speaking to, the 70-year-old woman who was talking about the New World Order, right? The guy that lent her the book of The Rise of the New World Order, A Culling Man, yeah, he told me that the other day, an ex-SAS guy, right, retired now, had come down into the area and spoke to his daughter, right, and said, right, you need to be careful, right, because sometime between now, and he held his hand out from him.
Is that the guy?
Right, yeah.
Oh,
He said that sometime between now and whenever, not very long from now, he said it's a short period of time. He couldn't say exactly when, but it was going to be, it could be a matter of weeks, it could be a matter of months. Yeah. There is going to be a life-changing event, right? He didn't elaborate, right? But come on, we're in the conspiracy business, right? We know what's coming. He said that an event was going to happen, which was going to be life-changing for everyone.
Yeah.
Take from that what you will, but he was.
It's going to be the declaration of Third World War, I'd say.
Well, he was he was deadly serious about what he said. In fact, my friend said, "Wasn't it kind of nice of him to come and warn us before?" I said, "Listen, we know something's coming. It's just a bit unnerving to hear it from a trained professional to actually come and tell you that he knows." So he's an insider that knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think that life-changing event is he's probably talking about the you know, I mean, at the moment we are technically involved in a Third World War. You might as well, with all the countries and everything that's been going on, you might as well call it that. But it's not officially declared as a Third World War. People are talking about Third World War coming. Albert Pike mentioned about this war. He mentioned all the details of how this war has to be and what it's supposed to achieve, you know, and what the agenda is for that Third World War. It's not actually been, like you said, weeks or whatever. With what's going on now with Russia and everything else, we are literally very, very close to, and it'll be a life-changing event because, you know, during the Second World War, we were continuously being planes flying over and bombing us, and you know, anyone who's involved in it, you know. So I'm sure that's what he would be referring to, wouldn't you?
But then again, we obviously, you know, the shows that we talk about, and we talk about the great deception that's coming. Yeah. Now, I ultimately believe that is the ultimate life-changing event. Yeah, because once that happens, everything changes. Everything changes. I mean, obviously a world war would change quite a lot, but nothing would change the narrative and change the script than the potential invasion or declaration that aliens have just turned up on the White House lawn, and it's on CNN, and there's no going back, and Hollywood just became reality.
Yeah.
Could
be that. Could be that.
And that is coming, no matter what. Whether we have
I much prefer that to aliens have landed. It's the aliens.
World War III is the precursor to the alien agenda. It's the final card that they're going to play. And, you know, I'm going to keep talking about it any show and every opportunity I can, because, you know, whether you are listening out there and you believe it or not, whether you believe in aliens, we know that aliens don't exist, but that's another topic. Yeah.
Can I just say to everyone, thank you so much for inviting me on the show, and I really appreciate all that you do, especially yourself, Rob, because I know a bit more about what you do than anyone else. I fully support it, and it's been great to be on the show, and you know, it's a bit weird on the thing. David Main, friend of Darren Osborne. I'm like, ooh, but like, yeah, you know.
Yeah.
My girlfriend said to me, she said, you know, Dave, she goes, you should try and say something, you know, and get your views across. And I thought about it, and I thought about it with the mainstream media, and I thought, you know, they immediately started getting cagey. We can offer you some money, and we can do it, and all that. And whilst doing that, they were like, and can you tell us this? And who was this man? Where did he live? And oh yeah, and I was just like, I just felt like violated immediately. And I thought, there's no way that I'm going to be dumb enough or stupid enough to try and put my point about the fake news, the dodgy media, Agenda 21 or anything through a bunch of flipping mainstream media journalists, because I know damn well it's not good. It's just like either I'm completely deluded about mainstream media and fake news, or, you know, why would I even attempt it? So I'm glad I didn't, and I'm glad I came on the show.
Well, maybe you should have. Then maybe they slam the phone down faster. Yeah, there's nothing like putting the phone down on you talking about New World Order. Oh, well,
Robbie, that's pretty much how I got rid of them all. I pretty much got rid of them all by saying that. It's funny.
Hey, we got one of them conspiracy 2 that wearing nut jobs again. Oh, here we go. Yeah, here, put your money back in the wallet. Yeah, sorry, we'll find someone else.
But yeah, no. So it's been a great opportunity for me to talk. And you know, if this is recorded or if anyone refers to anything, it's great for me because I know that I get a chance to speak the truth, to speak about what the potentials are and everything else with people that I consider to be pretty damn conscious, pretty aware, and that are asking the right questions. Whereas everyone out there is arguing and screaming and shouting and potentially getting violent. It was a great opportunity to speak on the show.
I don't think you quite understand what you've let yourself in for, actually, my friend. Because you know you are now automatically one of the panel, and you will be expected to return at any given time.
You will be called upon.
You know, listen. You know, you're really good at chatting shit, like me. You know, I'm an MC, or you're part of the rave scene. You know what I mean? So yeah.
We should definitely, like I said to you earlier, we should. I've got Fantasia talking about making a comeback. We should team up and make a full. We should do a track. And like you say, I didn't realise you'd done one. Can you give us a link to that as well, Robbie? That track you done?
I will do. We did actually cover the riots when the riots happened. How many years ago now? It was about 4 or 5 years ago now, or something like that. And we did actually do a track, and we actually used the soundtrack of the police. Actually, describing the events going down in Bethnal Green, actually, where the police cars would be getting firebombed and whatnot. It was a Sky News report or something like that, and it was a narrative of the show that I did on the radio. And I actually, when I was doing the drum and bass D&B, I actually made a commentary about what was going on as it was happening in real time, and Shotty 4HF actually took that soundbite and used that as the intro to the track. It was called UK Riot by Shotty 4HF, or Shotty Unlimited. If anybody's listening now, you can actually Google it and find it, right?
I think and I think it's funny because me and Robbie talk about coming from the rave scene, but the rave scene actually involved a lot of free parties, which would be considered illegal parties back in the time. And we have experienced firsthand on many, many occasions. We could probably chat all night about that. The violence and the hidden agenda, towards us, and the criminal justice bill was passed because of the. Well, I wouldn't say the rave scene, but because of the, people having parties, people throwing illegal parties. There was a whole lot of it. But me and Robbie have experienced firsthand massive amounts of police violence, massive amounts of
Oh, yeah.
extreme reactions from the police, etc., etc. And it's kind of funny now how through all these years we've ended up like this, which is great. It's good.
Listen, we were the progenitors of the Criminal Justice Acts that came in.
Yeah, we were both there at that one. We were both there at that one.
Oh, weren't we ever? It was 25 years ago, the other week, actually. Yeah.
Well, 29th of July. Yeah, it was. Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. This regeneration. I mean, I've been quiet as you like, but all of a sudden, it's 25 years ago since we played Castle Morton. 25 years ago since Castle Donington, etc., etc.
Yeah.
It's a pinnacle time.
You guys feel old.
25.
Yeah, we are. I'm 51. That's half a century. I never thought I'd make it. Well,
EJ, you're not even 25 yet.
No, I'm 27. They got a few extra years on me.
Whoa, hey, just a youngster.
Yeah, just a youngster.
I was joking because he's the baby of the crew. I was going to say, you're only 19, aren't you?
The baby.
Well, to keep track of events, people should pay attention to the climate as far as Muslim and British are concerned. They need to pay attention to what's going on as far as Russia, Syria, the United States
definitely that one
is concerned. They also need to pay attention to the climate here in the United States as far as the White House, the censorship of media. Even though the Smith-Mundt Act, I keep saying that every time we're on a show, people need to look that up because the media is a joke, but it is funny that they're shutting them down and the American populace is not throwing a fit.
Nope.
Because
you need to do us a favour, but you need to bring that with you next time you come. We need to talk about it. We need to do a show on it. It's actually worth a show on its own. Even though it sounds very mundane in this Smith-Mundt Act, it sounds like something very mundane. It's actually something quite serious, to be honest. You know what I mean? And both you actually do bring it up.
Well, every time, these are just things that I think that, as we look at these, we got to remember, like you and myself, all of us have talked about in the past, they give us a shiny and we pay attention to the shiny and we need to look.
The shiny trinkets, as Robbie calls trinkets.
The shiny baubles, the shiny trinkets, yeah. Oh, look, shiny trinket. Oh, look, what's Trump doing? Oh, look, chemtrails. Oh, look.
Distractions, really.
Oh,
exactly.
Oh, look, Hillary's back. Hillary's back.
See, the reason why I say that is because, of course, we talk about the subject that's at hand. So we can analyze it and see, is this real or not? What are the ramifications of it? What is it causing? But the things that are going on around in the background, 9 times out of 10, they have so much more impact. Another thing is with them talking about here in the United States, they're going to push through the medical bill by July without anybody looking at it. And that's 23 million people that are going to be off of insurance, including veterans. There's a lot of weird stuff that's going on right now. And the timing of this attack that happened in England and 3 in the United States in 24 hours, that's retarded.
Yeah, no, it's definitely stepping it up. It's, I mean, like I say, it's just, whether or not it is just reactions that were bound to happen that they've just jumped on and gone, wow, this couldn't be better at a better time. And the media are like, brilliant. Let's like I say, they probably go on about it for a week at least. Maybe.
Well, it's order out of chaos. It's the beginning of order out of chaos. Right. We know who controls this world from every aspect of every corner, and they're foot soldiers. And we know that every event that becomes a worldwide event is either contrived or it's been co-opted. Like last week's Grenfell Tower fire, which people are still reeling over right now, and to me, it didn't look entirely like an accident. It seemed like a long, drawn-out, projected event that was cultivated over time, and the timing of it was absolutely spot on for certain people, and it was horrifying. It was absolutely horrifying, and the way the media went with it was horrifying.
It's a very similar. It's the same. It's like the big burning tall building. That's Twin Towers all over again.
It was reminiscent of the Twin Towers. It actually brought it all back, you know, and people was actually starting to make comparisons. Oh, how come that building's still standing, but the Twin Towers?
Do you think there's an interesting point right there, Robbie? That how they I just call them for now subconscious indicators, where they steer your subconscious back to more. I can remember exactly when I first saw the first plane hit the first Twin Towers on the news, and I was sat there absolutely gobsmacked and, to be honest, pretty scared. And it just takes you back to that part of your brain, that part of your memory where you felt that sort of fear. So it's literally, there's a lot of validity in what you're saying.
Yeah, but the thing was, I mean, I was living in Weston-super-Mare at the time. Right, and I was actually with Louise. Yeah, it was on that morning, lunchtime. It was just coming up to about 1 o'clock or something like that. I went over to Andy Wilcox's house in Crow. Remember Crow used to be living there and that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Crow. Is he American?
Yeah, he's American. And I got to Andy's doorstep. He went, "Oh, one of the planes is at the towers, the blah, blah, blah." I said, "Mate, you need to come with your jokes. That was pretty shit as far as your jokes, because you're kind of funny. You are kind of funny." Right? He went, "No, come and look at this." So he took me into his bedroom, right?
And I bet you
and he got the little TV, set up, and one of the towers is on fire. And I'm like, "What's all that about then?" He goes, "Apparently a plane's hit it." I'm like, "Nah, that can't be right."
Like,
and within 10 minutes of actually like looking at it, boom, the next plane at the tower. Boom, there you go, everything changed. I went out the next day, right? Because we went into town afterwards, after watching everything unfold. We went into what's the bar called? Bar Red, right? And everyone's stunned. I was in London. Right, everybody was stunned. Right, the very next day, I went out and bought every newspaper that I could afford to buy. Right, and it was funny that everything was written up. They were talking about the war on terror.
I was suspicious immediately within about an hour.
Listen, there were pages and they had pages and pages and pages of write-up. It was as if they'd had it scripted. But at the time, nobody realised it because you were so caught up in the moment, right?
Yeah, I was suspicious very quickly.
I was watching the news. I watched the news constantly for 3 days. I didn't sleep for 3 days. I went to sleep. Right? I went to sleep and I dreamt that I was in the towers trying to escape down the stairwell. That's how much the mind control would work, right?
Yeah.
But what got me was the fact that the newspapers had a write-up story. They were talking about the war on terror for the next 20 years and what countries they were going to go in. It was almost as if they had the script already prepared.
They did. The general talks about it.
And they did.
That's it. They did.
It basically set the stage for my reality.
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely, that is. That. Since then, it's been. I mean, I can remember watching that program Loose Change straight away when it came out and everything else, and then and that really, for me, that started me on this path. This trying to look behind the scenes, and I found out a hell of a lot of stuff. And it was a lot of intense research.
David, you know what's really horrifying is if you use YouTube right now. And you bring up the television show that told exactly why they were going to supposedly crash planes into the World Trade Centers. They tell you years before it happened.
Yeah.
They tell you why. And that's happening over and over and over again.
We are literally, like you say, it's a narrative, it's a script.
Yep.
We know. I mean, like I say, I don't think everything's pre-planned. I think that this particular one with Darren Osborne probably is a reactionary one, and it's quite likely that it is actually not a setup in any way, and that he actually just did it. It was just him reacting. He split up with his missus 6 months. 6 months. He'd been with her had 4 children. He'd been with her a long time, and it's quite possible. But like I say, they don't need to. It doesn't. It does roll by itself. The reason that they put these false flags in is to cause this snowball effect of reaction. So snowball is a big butterfly effect is about to take place, and it's not going to be pleasant.
Exactly. Well, I really want to thank you for coming on. I do want to clarify something because somebody in the chat room has been Francisco, you had mentioned earlier in the show something about Hollywood Boulevard, a shooting. Can you go into a little bit more detail on what you were talking about?
Oh, I was in California some time back, and I was actually chatting to a woman who was she was just selling flowers on the side as a friend of mine, and she was selling her flowers, like loads of flowers, and on where Hollywood and La Brea is, Hollywood and Brea, just past the Chinese Theatre, just by where the Hollywood Live place is as well, just past there. Basically, at that crossing where the pedestrian crossing is, I think it was 2 or maybe 3 cars and probably about maybe 6 to 10 gang members. They just all leant out of their windows and just shot into a whole crowd of pedestrians that were waiting to jaywalk. It was horrific, and they came past. I jumped into what was a souvenir shop with this girl, and we hit the deck, and they shot through the windows. And then I jumped out, and it was one of the most horrendous times of my life. I jumped out feeling all heroic and thought I'd go and help some people. And one guy had been shot in the shoulder, and I tried to calm him down. And one of the things you do, because he was so hysterical, I slapped him across the face. And his friends in their own hysteria, which I don't blame him for, but they attacked me because just reactionary. And I ended up in the gutter with face to face with someone who'd had their face blown off. It was horrendous. And I can't remember exactly how many people were killed or whatever, because I quickly went back to the woman. I kind of went off all heroically saying, I'm going to see if anyone's hurt. I immediately ran into that experience where I saw a bloke who was shot in the shoulder. He was going, "Oh, this is fucking hot, man. This is hot." And I slapped him across the face to try and calm him down. Immediately got hit by his friends, fell on the gutter, nearly had my face pushed into a blown out face, and then immediately retreated and ran back and said, "Come on, let's get out of here," because it was horrific. So I'm not entirely sure how many people were shot, but I know there was a couple of cars, and they were gang members, and they were doing
That's fine.
we just
had people that were just being ridiculous in the chat room. Don't worry about it. That's something that, I have experiences like that living in Phoenix, coming close, having the gangs go by and do the shooting and,
it's not knowing. I've had plenty of experiences. I've experienced plenty of experiences like that, when the helicopters fly over with the big light and the tannoid and they're like, "Hey, stay where you are," and all that. I've walked around Hollywood at 2 o'clock in the morning and been asked who I am. And
don't we live in a pleasant society, eh?
Yeah.
Well, I know. My house, my ex, we got woke up plenty of times in the middle of the night with shots being fired. I remember the one time at the window, and we had the drapes drawn and the shades down, but I remember hearing 2 shots, and I sat up, and as I sat up, a third shot, and I saw the light from the what is it, the muzzle. Oh, help me out here, Marty. What is it called? The muzzle. The muzzle flash. Yeah.
The muzzle.
Y'all beat me to it.
It was out that window, which was across the yard, was an alleyway, and that's where it was happening. And my ex now, but he threw me back down in the bed because he didn't want anything coming through the window, And we've gone out in the morning, and there's wasted shells out on our front porch and on our carport and stuff that we've heard, and but that happens. That's what happens when you're in a big city.
Absolutely. I could easily compare. I can remember when I was in school, maybe 12 years old or whatever. Back then, there was quite a lot of gangs. There was quite a lot of violence. There's quite a lot of racial tension as well, and just general. And I can remember, as school kids, we were asked to walk home in groups because there used to be gangs of punks that would rob our dinner money at knife point, and that's pretty much, wow. That's how bad it used to get in England. I've walked around the streets of Los Angeles, and I've been absolutely terrified. I've had plenty of that one incident was the worst incident, but I could tell you loads of different other incidences that are just as bad. I can remember a SWAT team just coming into the 7-Eleven opposite where I lived, and just there was a massive shootout, and I was just sat thinking, that's just happened too quickly. They haven't cared. LAPD have not really you know, dealt with the pedestrian situation very well. And it was a bloody shootout. It's as simple as that, you know. And yeah, in comparison to this country, even in inner city London, you know, where there's still quite a bit of, you know, there's definitely some serious violence, but you know, in comparison, there is no comparison. The amount of guns,
y'all have knife violence. Y'all don't have gun violence. Y'all have knife and
Right, well, it's because they're not
maces and
allowed
blunt objects and things like
yeah,
that.
I mean, there are, you know, there are now sort of, you know, especially in certain inner cities, Birmingham and London, you do hear this, that, you know, people do get guns and stuff. But again, we're not, you know, to own a gun in this country is not so easy. You know, you guys have got an amendment.
Do you know the psychology difference it takes for a person to pull a trigger than it takes to get up close and use a gun or a bat or stomp you?
Yeah.
That's personal.
Quite a different. Yeah. You have to enter that person. You have to enter that person's personal space.
Yeah,
in
that's
order to that barrier. Whereas with the trigger,
so that's what I mean. So there's a very good point actually. So when you talk about the you know, because again, football hooliganism, for example, which used to be rife every weekend, there was a lot, you know, and in Europe, the British football hooligan was, you know, that's all been quashed. So all of that history of all that violence, gang violence, lots of gang violence, has all been quashed, and it's been contained. And I do think that I think that, and again, it was a Conservative government when all that was going on, and I do think that that uprising is going to come again.
Well, actually, that's not entirely correct, right? Knife and gun crime in London, especially between the young gangs, the young generation of the gangs, has escalated to levels unprecedented since time immemorial, right?
And Birmingham, Robbie, and Manchester.
Well, Manchester is a whole different kettle of fish, right? There are things going on in Manchester, especially in Mosque side, right, that do not make the headlines. And we're talking about shootings, stabbings, muggings, and you don't hear nothing. But with London, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, there's been such an escalation, right, that it is out of control, right, and especially with the knife crime, right. But now, right, with this situation that is actually taking place now, you are going to see elevated levels of violence, pockets of violence.
Yeah, like I saw the return of gang violence, and it'll be racist,
which have not been seen since either 9/11 or 7/7. Right, they were flashpoints of violence that escalated and then died down. Now you are going to see the gloves come off, unfortunately.
Yeah, I
do fear for the people that are in these communities that are going to feel this, you know, not going to feel safe. And even though, you know, the Rothschilds took our guns back in the 1700s, right, then there are still guns out on the street. Yeah, there are guns. Yeah,
a lot of replicas as well.
Let's not beat around the bush. There are weapons out there somewhere. They are in the hands of criminals, right? They are in the hands of people that don't declare it, right? You know, just the everyday general public do not have arms. Yeah, you might have a hot boiling pot of boiling hot water. Yeah, you might have a baseball bat with nails in it, right? You might have a knife or a
samurai sword.
But you're not going to have an automatic machine gun, and you're not going to have any kind of weaponry unless it's a registered hunting rifle that's registered with the police. Yeah, but other than that,
most of it held down at the shooting club.
There's the 70 million people that are in this country, right, are not armed, right, which is very frightening, a very frightening concept, considering the fact is that if martial law is called tomorrow and the authorities decide to turn on people that want to go out on the street and protest and riot, yeah, you've got nothing to defend yourself with. You've got nothing to defend yourself with in a home when a burglar comes in the home, because the way the laws are structured, you can only defend yourself with some kind of reasonable force. You can't do. There's no. I don't know what the actual term is in America when right to defend or stand your ground. There's no stand your ground laws, right? If you kill somebody in your home, right, that's breaking in. You're going to jail. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I think again, it's self-defense. With self-defense, our laws on self-defense is you're only allowed to sort of make one kind of reactionary blow, aren't you? Really? After, if someone comes in, Jason, you can sort of restrain them or do whatever, But if you actually beat the crap out of them, sometimes it happens quite a lot. The burglar gets compensation.
For real.
You get a lot of that. You get a lot of burglar compensation when they've been injured. But if you're a farmer, you can shoot everyone.
Well, pedophiles have got more rights than the general public. Put it that way.
Well, guys.
Oh yeah, if you're a paedophile, you get well protected.
Yeah.
We are up on 2 hours. We've just hit the 2 hour mark. So you know what happens after that? We turn into pumpkins here. But David, thank you for joining us. And again, I want to thank you for giving us the privilege of talking to you. In case everybody didn't know, he's
back at you. I feel exactly the same. It's wonderful. Thank you very much. And like I say, I'm not talking to anyone else now. I'm going to turn everything off. I'm going to go about my personal life. I'll probably have a quick peep on social media, but I'm glad to have done this one interview with people that I respect and with people that I know are truth seekers, and I'm glad that I managed to fend off that whole charade today. And,
let's see
what happens, eh? Let's see what happens.
That's all right, because you've probably got the BBC listening to every word you've been saying anyway. So.
We're gonna be tomorrow, exactly. BBC's gonna be picking us up. Actually, no, they can't, because we have our this show is copyrighted, and they can't retransmit it without our permission. So
no, they have to pay us a couple of bucks.
All right, they pay a couple of bucks. Don't forget my cut.
Your 53 cents in the mail. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, we posted that.
Right, brilliant. It's been wonderful. Yeah, and the same back. I want to thank all of you. And like I said, it's how lucky to true. Like my missus did say to me, she said you should actually say something. Like you should say something, and it's an opportunity to get your voice out. And I thought about it at first, and I thought you're actually talking rubbish. Who get my voice out with all that lot having a laugh? They're not going to. All that happens is they twist everything. Before you know it, I'd probably be part of the act with him or something.
Yeah, you're probably one of the terrorists that made him on.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so thanks so much, Robbie. Is it Marty? I'm sorry if I've forgotten anyone's names, but just thank you all, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, let's see what happens, eh?
We'll talk again, I'm sure.
You will.
Thank you for coming, David.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Well, I'm going to sign off now because I've got a 6-year-old asleep and I've got to get him to school in about 3 hours, so I've got to try and sleep.
That's all right, Dave. We'll catch up. We're going to speak over the weekend anyway, so
right.
Cool.
Well, guys.
Thank you.
Awesome
interview, and thank you again to David Main, who has, he decided not to go with the mainstream media. He'd been approached today by the Sun, BBC. Who else approached him today?
Daily Mail, Daily Mirror, the whole works, the whole shebang's been on his case.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep, and he decided to forego them and come over and to our humble little channel here and give us an exclusive interview, and we want to thank him for that. We have a lot to probably talk about. I think we'll probably do another show tomorrow night. I want to talk some more about the fire. I know that Stephanie in the chat room wants to know some more about it. I've been getting bombarded on it on Facebook, people wanting to know. You have a lot of opinions on it. You have a lot of facts that you need to and would like to bring out about it, and I think we should talk about that. EJ, Marty, hopefully you can join us tomorrow night for that show. It would be great.
I'm having someone else on my show, but if anything, I'll try to hop in last minute.
Appreciate that. And I just do want to tell everybody, I have on my desktop here, I have an RSOE, Emergency Disaster Information Service, alerts going off on my computer here. Throughout the show, I don't know if you guys are aware of the uptick of the earthquakes happening right now in Yellowstone, but for the past 24, 48 hours, there has been a continuous uptick of earthquakes in that area. We are keeping an eye on it. We are, I am, documenting them. Literally, as we were doing. hear about every 5 minutes.
Well, if Yosemite goes, it's game over. There's no doubt about it. That would be the super volcano that they've been trying to tell us all about.
That will be the earth-changing event that we've been waiting for. But I just want to let everybody know, if you don't have RSOE, it's description area below, but it's Google, just Google in the capital letters RSOE space EDIS, and it'll take you there. And you can take a look at what I'm talking about, the earthquake upticks. It also gives a lot more information on there also. Also, we're keeping an eye on the tropical storm that is in the Gulf of Mexico right now. Just spoke with my son a little while ago in New Orleans. They are stocking up on supplies right now. It looks like it is going to take a turn, and it's going to be hitting Louisiana. You guys remember last year when they had the flooding down there? They still haven't recuperated from that. So our prayers and our thoughts are with them, and we're going to be watching them.
Yeah, is this the cyclone that's in the wrong part of the world?
Yeah, this is the cyclone that we were talking about. I'm telling you guys, I don't know if it was the writer of the article, but we saw that there was a cyclone in the Gulf of Mexico, and I got these guys on the phone yesterday, Robbie and Marty, and I said, am I having a Mandela effect moment? Because I could have swore cyclones were in the Indian Ocean, typhoons are in the Pacific, and hurricanes are in the Atlantic. And we did research that, and it was right. You know, the cyclones are in the Indian Ocean. So I don't know. So it must have been the writer or something, but I don't know. But we're going to keep an eye on that. EJ, what do you got coming up tomorrow night?
I am having somebody on to talk about premonitions, dreams, and future sights. He's basically been, I don't want to say plagued, but every so often he gets like an influx of dreams and visions and premonitions of just like, I don't want to say like apocalyptic style visions, but what he attributes it to is basically the wisdom of God being poured out and us not listening. And he feels like whenever he's just like flooded with it, you know, it's like him being called to tell people like, look, I know we have a lot of different things going on, but that's because we're trapped up here in the physical, political aspect of things. He feels like whenever we don't focus on God, when we're having these tense times, that he and now his daughter, and that was another thing that we're going to get into as well, the generational factor, and if his daughter, like what kind of vision she's having as well, how they just feel this kind of spiritual turmoil. So really, hopefully really good episode. We have it lined up, but I will let you guys know if anything, how it goes.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. I'm actually going to be signing off here, going to sleep, because I had a rough night last night. I actually died twice in my sleep last night through dreams.
Wow.
Hoping and praying, yeah, that I sleep well tonight, because I just had a horrible night last night. So. Was it
violent, or was it like it's symbolic or?
The first time it was an airplane. There was something wrong with the airplane. It was on the ground. The airplane was on the ground, and they were evacuating us, and they got us all off the plane, or they got me and a bunch of other people off the plane, and they told us to run, and we ran, and there was these cement blockades that we tried to get behind, and the plane exploded, and I saw the fireball come at me and engulfed me, and I woke up. Second time, I don't remember the specifics of it. I just know that it was a specific time. It was 5:45, and at 5:45 I was going to die. Times in a row, I kept waking up, kept going back to sleep, and I had the same dream 3 times in a row that time. But yeah, that was my dreams last night.
That's kind of crazy.
Hey, when we get over here, I need to talk to you.
Okay. All right. So I want to thank you guys. I want to thank everybody in the chat room. Thank Robbie. Thank you, Marty. Thank you, EJ. Thank you to David Main for joining us also. And hopefully we'll be back here tomorrow night, God willing. Robbie, where can they find us? And where can we find, let's throw EJ in there. Where can they find EJ?
Well, between now and next week, we could all be in padding cells, but you know, I'm not joking. Yeah, you can usually find us at ESWG, Exposing Satanic World Government, which we're actually now going to be hitting 100,000 people very, very soon. right? Which is quite a big jump from the 82,000 over the last couple of months. We are also on the Underground Resistance Network, where we are now over 40,000 people strong, which is really good. And amazingly, on the Ultimate Hebrew Israelite Awakening page, we are now about to hit 60,000 people, organic people, right? The video that I put up for how hot dogs are made have now hit over 100 million views.
Wow.
Viral, baby, viral.
You know, I'd say
100 million.
We'll be getting sponsorship next and adverts, and they'd be paying us to take it off.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And you can also find me over at the Awakening Liberty show on Saturdays with Sean Karan. Started on my debut. It's also on this channel if you guys want to check it out. We had a really good interview with Rita Noguchi about satanic ritual abuse and DID, and his upcoming movie, The Tarot. So check that out if you guys haven't checked it out yet. And EJ, where can we find you?
You can find me doing daily news on Instagram, which also transplants over to Facebook. You can also find us on YouTube at Factions of Freedom. You can also go to our website, factionsoffreedom.jimdo.com, and we are on basically major news or major sound platforms, major music platforms like SoundCloud, Blog Talk Radio, Mixcloud, TuneIn, iTunes, Google Play Store, and you can find our podcast there. And we release weekly episodes on Friday. And I am lucky and blessed enough to be able to come on your guys' show and have just to be on the panel, just to hear what you guys want to talk about and to contribute.
Yeah, we're going to be starting up a live stream soon with EJ on Facebook at some point. We're going to be actually streaming live from the Underground Resistance Network.
Right, and but I want and
about the broadcasting on ESWG or
no,
and
yes, I know where this is going.
Are we talking about the article?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I recently was offered a position of being a contributing writer on a new website, AWD News. I think it's another Western Daily News. I'm not entirely sure. Another Western Dawn News, and I'm a contributing author there. And you guys can read some of my articles, not the ones that are put up on the page, but ones that are actually written by me. I'll put sources, links. I'm going to come out with videos and all kinds of other crazy stuff too. So a lot of different things that I'm going to work on to kind of help expand and consecrate everything else that we're going. But I actually also contacted Lori too, because I felt like this is a good way for us to kind of legitimize what we're doing here, not only on the podcast but on the page as well. Like, this literally gives us another platform to get the information out. So I'm stoked for it. I'm definitely stoked for it.
all praises, man.
Exactly. And I think the next step, that's going to happen is we're going to have to write that book that we've been talking about.
I know we are. we have a book. We have a book in the queue, and we still have to do that. We have to get Robbie connected with Ronald Dalton Jr. so we can start working on that documentary.
Yeah, you
Drop. He got excited, man. He got
excited and just chucked it.
Just chuck it everywhere. I was going to say, you lot need to learn how to do all your tax returns and all that first before you start. You need to write all that out first before you start writing books and all that. People, yeah. Sorry.
All right, guys, we're going to close it down. We'll see you back here tomorrow night. All the links I'll put in the description area below. Thank you to all of our moderators in our chat room. Thank you, everybody listening. Thank you for all your support. And we will talk with you all later. Until then.
Bye.
Shalom.